You had a terrible Tuesday. Your boss gave credit for your work to someone else. You sat in traffic for 45 minutes. You got home, opened your phone, and 20 minutes later you'd spent $127 on things you didn't need that morning. And here's the uncomfortable part, you felt better. Genuinely better. Not fake better. Not distraction better. Your mood actually lifted. Your shoulders dropped. You took a breath. So, was that a mistake? Or was that medicine? My name is Daniel Gray. I spend way too much time thinking about the psychology of money. If you're someone who's ever bought something you didn't need and then couldn't explain why it felt so necessary in the moment, subscribe, and give this a thumbs up if it changes how you think. Here's the thing most people get wrong about retail therapy. They think it's about the stuff. It's not. It's about the choosing. A 2014 study out of the University of Michigan published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that retail purchases reduced residual sadness 3 times more effectively than browsing alone. But, and this is where it gets really interesting, the effect had almost nothing to do with what people bought. It had to do with making a decision. Any decision. The act of choosing restored a sense of personal control that the negative experience had taken away. Think about that. Your brain doesn't care about the shoes. Your brain cares that you picked the shoes. That's what's doing the emotional work. A 2022 study from the University of British Columbia found that people who felt a loss of control in one area of life were 63% more likely to make unplanned purchases in the next 2 hours. Not the next week. The next 2 hours. The instinct is that fast. And research from Carnegie Mellon shows that the nucleus accumbens, the same reward center that responds to food and social connection, activates during the anticipation phase of a purchase. Not the owning phase. The deciding phase. Your brain gets its dopamine hit before the credit card even clears. So retail therapy works. Neurologically, measurably, it works. The problem isn't that it doesn't work. The problem is what it costs when you don't notice why it's working. Let me give you a number. The average American spends roughly $2,100 per year on impulse purchases. That's from a 2023 survey by Slick Deals, and honestly, it's probably conservative because people underreport. Now, $2,100 a year sounds manageable. Right? It's $175 a month. It's a couple of online orders and a Target run. But here's the math that should make you uncomfortable. If you invested that $175 a month at an average 8% return over 20 years, you'd have roughly $103,000. Over 30 years? Around $264,000. You're not spending $2,100 a year. You're spending $250,000 over your working life. On mood regulation you didn't know you were doing. And this is where the objection comes in. But Daniel, I deserve nice things. You're telling me I can't buy anything? No. Look, that's not what I'm saying at all. You absolutely deserve nice things. This isn't about deprivation. The question is whether you're buying things because you want them, or buying them because your brain is wired to use purchasing as an emotional reset button. Those are two completely different behaviors that look identical from the outside. Let me tell you about a composite I've seen play out dozens of times. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah makes $68,000 a year. Good job. Saves a little. Not financially reckless by any standard. But Sarah has this pattern. Every time she has conflict at work, every time she feels undervalued or overlooked, she buys something that night. Skincare. A kitchen gadget. New workout gear. Never huge purchases. Usually $30 to $80 range. She doesn't think of herself as an emotional spender. She'd tell you she just likes finding good deals. And she does. That's not a lie. But here's what most people don't realize, the deal finding is part of the mechanism. The research. The comparison. The, I found the best price. That whole ritual is the control restoration process. The purchase is almost an afterthought. When Sarah tracked her spending for 3 months, actually tracked it, she found she'd spent $1,400 on items she'd used once or never. Not because she was irresponsible. Because her nervous system had found a coping strategy that happened to involve a credit card. And no one had ever told her that's what was happening. Here's the second objection I hear: so what's the alternative? Just sit with the bad feeling? Kind of. Yeah. A 2019 study from the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found that people who simply named the specific emotion they were feeling, not bad or stressed, but the precise word, like humiliated or dismissed, experienced a 40% reduction in the impulse to make compensatory purchases. 40%. Just from naming the feeling accurately. Your brain is looking for agency. It's an instinct, a deep one. When something makes you feel powerless, your entire neurological system scrambles for the nearest way to prove you still make choices. And in a world where your phone puts a store in your pocket 24 hours a day, the nearest choice is almost always a purchase. The mechanism isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It's just that the modern environment has made one particular expression of that instinct extremely accessible and extremely expensive. This isn't about willpower. It never was. People who think they should just stop buying stuff are fighting a neurological control restoration process with guilt. And guilt, as it turns out, is itself a loss of control state. Which triggers, more purchasing. It's a loop. So let me leave you with this. Retail therapy works. The research confirms it. Your experience confirms it. I'm not here to tell you it doesn't. But the reason it works, the restoration of choice, the dopamine of deciding, the feeling of agency in a moment when agency was taken from you, none of that requires the purchase to actually go through. The emotional work is done before the buy button. Everything after that is just expense. If this changed how you think about spending, subscribe. This is what we do here. We look at the psychology everyone else ignores. Money is psychology. Everything else is detail.